Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the channel. Everyone really appreciated, or seemed to appreciate, the Dream Realm boss guide that I did yesterday. Now, I did a few of these on my channel in the early days, but let's be real, I didn't really know the best kind of comps. I was just using what I had at the time. Which, if anyone wants an insight about how a YouTuber generally tends to start a new game, is you kind of fake it till you make it, but you have to make it pretty quickly, otherwise people realize you're talking rubbish. So I've now obviously sunk a huge amount of time into this game. I absolutely love it. I know a lot more than I did when I started. So we're going to redo the Dream Realm for today, which is going to be this one right here, SNOWSTOMPER. I'm currently ranked 23, so I'm just going to tilt my screen because it's kind of annoying me, the position that it's in at the moment. We're going to redo this, but before we do that, I hit the Trial of Abyss level 300. Now, for those of you who don't know much about Trial of Abyss, there are actually some pretty good rewards. Specifically, the best rewards are stargazing tokens. And I have got another 10 stargazing tokens to pull. So what we're going to do is we are going to hopefully get some video, streamer luck, whatever you want to call it. Here we go. Oh, we're not going to get a pity. Let's see. Come on, give me one copy at least. One copy at least. Ooh, fuck. I got shit. I hate gacha games. Okay. All right. Back on with the real video. This is SNOWSTOMPER. Okay. So SNOWSTOMPER is, you'll see that right here they suggest some heroes. SNOWSTOMPER is a boss that essentially silences you for the majority of the attempt. You are going to have units that are just not going to be able to cast their ultimates. So therefore, units that are much better from a basic attack standpoint are pretty good. Now, I'm going to talk to you about some of the comps that work here, and we're going to use a few different comps, because this is one of the comps where you can run Reinier, and you don't actually need Reinier at Mythic Plus for it to be really good, but you can also run comps without Reinier as well. The reason we like to run Reinier is not actually for his debuff, but it's actually because we can put Odie at the front line, which sounds really stupid, but it just works. Odie can be your tank for this level. So last time we kind of went over the SNOWSTOMPER's abilities, and I think that's going to be a good place to start as well. So the ultimate freezes the non-summoned enemy with the highest accumulated damage dealt in a Yeti cell until it's destroyed. The frozen enemy cannot move, losing 0.4% of their max HP per second and receiving an extra damage equal to 0.2% of their max HP per second. The enemy's normal attacks can only target the Yeti cell while it exists. Level 2, so basically it goes up in levels the more you go, but essentially just increases the damage. So essentially, it will target the enemy with the highest damage dealt to the boss, and it will place them in a Yeti tomb. There is something that we do on this boss with Reinier to make this easier to deal with, and you're going to see it in the tactics that I use. But essentially, we use Reinier to teleport Odie to the front line, because Odie in general is going to have a very high amount of damage on this boss because he can just continuously attack. He will also stack up his poison, and it generally means that Odie often gets focused on this until the very end, where sometimes Marily becomes the target. And by having Odie transported to the front line, he means that your melee heroes will not peel too far off the boss, so you won't lose a huge amount of DPS from your melee heroes going onto the boss. So this is summons a blizzard that lasts for 20 seconds at 10, 40, and 70 seconds. So you're going to notice that you have about 10 seconds of downtime from this, from pretty much the entire fight. You've got the first 10 seconds of the battle where you're building energy. Then you have between 30 and 40 seconds, and then you have between 60 and 70 seconds. So you don't get very much time to cast your ultimates or silence anything or use any of your abilities, which is why units that do well with their basic attacks tend to do well here. Launches a tearing bite at an enemy, dealing true damage equal to the 5% of the target's max HP and bleeds them. So essentially it's just a bite skill. Attacks the healthiest enemy, dealing 180% damage and knocking them down. And then deals multiple waves of frost, dealing 120% enemies to frontal enemies with a 1-tile arc 3 times. So really, there isn't. So there's some targeted attacks. There's a bit of base damage. The two major mechanics that you have to be aware of here is when you get locked inside a snowman. The way we try to counteract that is by putting one of our highest damage dealers towards the front, which is what we use Reinier for. It's one of the bosses where Reinier can be really useful even before Mythic Plus. And then the other one is the fact that we are getting silenced for them, like 80%, 70% of the fight, you're going to be silenced. So units that rely on abilities or casting their ultimate to be good are not that good on this boss. And that means that people like Marley, Odie, even Thoran come into their own a little bit because they are a bit more basic attack focused. So hopefully that helps. And now we're going to go through some of the tactics. Right, let's jump into it. So this comp that I'm going to show you here, if you had Reinier at Mythic Plus and probably Cassidy at Supreme Plus, this would be the best possible comp that you could run. The reason we're not going to run Star Shard spell is, as previously mentioned, you're not going to get to ult a lot. So we're going to run Blazing Spell, which is going to deal more damage to the boss than anything else. There is also a potential option that you could run Awakening Spell, but Blazing Spell just gives you a bit of penetration, which is quite nice. So this is the comp setup that we're going to run. Let's see how much damage we get done. This would be the best possible comp setup for SNOWSTOMPER, especially if you have everything ascended. But I want to just show you what it can do with some of your core components ascended. So I've got Odie to Supreme Plus. I've got Marley at Supreme. I've got Thoran at Supreme as well. So yeah, Reinier is not even, he's Legendary Plus. And I think Marley is like, Cassidy is like Epic Plus. One of the other benefits of having Odie at your front line in this instance is that he can often be the one that gets snowmanned, which makes it very much easier for like Thoran to get there and attack it. And essentially, you're going to decrease the downtime that you have on your units that are going to get put into a snowman position. You will also notice that we're not running a dedicated healer. That is because this boss doesn't actually deal that much damage other than to the single target that it is focusing. So you don't actually have a huge amount of AoE damage to worry about in this fight. And that's why, yeah, we have Odie tanking. He's at the front line, supported by Reinier, basically absorbing all the damage, as we just saw there. He also just took a snowman for us, which is great. And we are at about 47 million damage, which isn't as much as I've been able to achieve today. But again, my Cassidy isn't reducing the magic resist. So, you know, there are some things that obviously could be improved by that. But the Reinier teleporting the Odie to the front line is what makes this quite a strong version of the comp that you can run, because Odie will frequently get snowmanned at the front, so no one else will have to peel off and attack him. And he actually sustains pretty much the entire fight by himself, which is pretty good. Now, there is another comp that we can run here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of... what's her name? I'm going to get rid of Cassidy because she's not very good. And then I'm going to look for a potential debuff. So I'm going to put in Thoran. So Thoran's going to add a debuff for me. The other option is that we could run Temesya. But in this instance, the Temesya debuff is not as strong compared to Necrodrakon, because the Necrodrakon debuff is obviously just really nice for dealing less damage across the team. Because SNOWSTOMPER doesn't actually deal that much damage, then it's less important. So we're going to go for the increased damage taken debuff from Thoran, which is going to be quite nice because obviously I don't have Reinier at Mythic Plus, so I'm going to have some way of just debuffing and getting the damage increased here. So we're going to go again. And once again, you're going to notice that my Odie's on the front line. He is sustaining pretty much all the damage here. We have a lot of melee, but again, because we are almost guaranteeing that the snowman is going to get afflicted on one of our melee in range melee heroes, it means that Thoran isn't going to lose a load of downtime, Thoran isn't going to lose a load of downtime, and we're essentially going to have situations where you know, we're getting people out the snowman really quickly. One of the problems that you'll find on this boss if you're on too many ranged is that your melee champions will peel off the boss, and they won't actually, they'll have so much DPS downtime because they're essentially getting stuck on killing snowmans over and over again. But yeah, you'll notice again, this boss, you very rarely actually cast your ultimate. Odie becomes the focus almost all the time, which just makes it very easy for everyone to essentially turn around. And in this instance, I'm doing way more damage because I've got the debuff of the Thoran here. So, you know, the Cassidy is not particularly worth running if you don't have her at Supreme Plus. We get to 49,958,000. So that's another good version of this comp that we can run. However, there are obviously versions of this comp that we can run that don't include the Reinier at all. So let's say you don't have Reinier, for instance, and you want to run something else. So in this instance, let's say that we're going to run... So we don't run Smoky on this because there's no point. He just never casts. So in this instance, what we're going to do is we're also going to run Kruger. So we're going to get Kruger in. He's going to come in. He's not going to be the primary focus because he won't survive long enough. But we're going to bring Kruger in because he's essentially going to support us with damage taken. Now, you could run Temesgia. You could run Shakir as well. But those aren't high enough for me. So I'm going to run Thoran for the debuff once again. We're also going to have an extra debuff in the form of Kruger, which is going to help us with our sort of general damage from Marily and our general damage from Korim. So we're going to maybe get an ult off. This is one of the major problems with Kruger, is that he sometimes just won't even get his ult off, and it will end up dying. So this is, yeah, if you don't have Kruger at Legendary Plus, he can end up just dying really quickly. So then we're going to get the ult off now, which should give him a little bit of HP back. But you probably will find that if you have Reinier, even if that Reinier is not Mythic Plus, you can get massive use out of Reinier. And this is the problem. You can see how much DPS we're losing because my melee champions have had to peel off and go and attack the snowman, which has just lost me so much time in DPS. And also the fact that Odie not switching targets just means that my Marily becomes essentially toast really quickly. So you can see that my best DPS attempt was using Reinier, even though he wasn't Mythic Plus. But there's some respectable attempts here with this comp as well. So these are all of the comps that I would suggest you giving a go with. You should be able to achieve most of them. Again, the core of like Odie, Korin, and Marily. We're going to give one more attempt with my Reinier comp for good measure. If I had Reinier at Mythic Plus, I'd be doing way more damage. But it is what it is. So I don't actually want... I want this. We'll do it like this. So we'll give it once, or go once again. And yeah, like I said, we just teleport Odie to the front line so he becomes the tank and he can sustain through pretty much everything, which is great. And that's the reason we use Reinier. Obviously, he has an added benefit on this boss of reducing their magic defense, or sorry, not reducing the magic defense, increasing the damage that it takes by a massive amount at Mythic Plus. But I don't have Reinier at Mythic Plus, and I'm obviously never going to get Reinier at Mythic Plus the way that my Star Shard pulls have been going on this account. This game's making me really want to spend more money on Star Shard tokens, that's for sure. And yeah, like I mentioned, if you're able to transport Odie to the front line, you just have that benefit of the snowman basically being going on him. We don't get much DPS downtime. It's just a better way of doing it. See if we can beat our damage total. We've got 8 seconds. Ah, no, Marily got focused now. That's not good. We won't beat our damage total if Marily gets focused. But that, to me, has been the best way to approach this boss. Hopefully this helped you, everyone. I'm going to keep it relatively short. I'll see you soon.